Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of Two Gay Dads, Parenting with Pride in a World Still Catching Up. If you're listening to this, you survived Thanksgiving with your crazy uncle, because everybody has the crazy uncle that you got to deal with at Thanksgiving. So welcome back. How was our Thanksgiving?
It was really good, although I think in our family, we might be the crazy uncles.
Probably the crazy uncles.
But we had a great time. We spent Thanksgiving in Ohio with my family, and we made sure that Jason had some of that sweet corn. If you saw episode 1, that will make sense. If you didn't, that won't make sense, but you're along for the ride. So
Michigan corn is better.
So just a couple things I thought we wanted to clean up from episode 1. This takes a little getting used to. You got to settle in and get your rhythm going. And so in that, just a couple things that we had said that we wanted to circle back to. One of them for me was I made a comment about using ChatGPT to research the immigration aspect of talking about the broader scope of our life. When I talked about that, one of the things that I wanted to clarify is I was talking more about doing research about what potential immigration could look like. A lot of LGBT families, I think, right now are just kind of dipping their toes in understanding what it would take to potentially leave this country that we love if things got bad enough. And so I've been using ChatGPT as kind of a guide to find those resources and then going to those resources and reading them. So just, not wanting to go overboard, but just clarifying that that's something that we've been looking into just to kind of understand what it would take.
Listen, we're going to get some things wrong. We're new. This is episode 2. We're doing this for fun. So, we're going to ask everyone for patience with us as we learn. We promise it's only going to get better. We're going to smooth out the editing. You may have noticed we're doing a bit of a different setup, visually background this time. We realized that in the last one, we spent too much time trying to look like this and look at each other, and it caused microphone issues and a few other things. So we're learning. So be patient with us. We're doing this for fun. We're doing this for us. We're doing this for the community we're trying to build.
Wait, I thought we were just going to go to a new location every week and just kind of work our way around the house. Is that not what we're doing?
I mean, maybe eventually if we actually, listen, we had a couple hundred listeners the first time, which was unbelievable. I can't believe people listened to two gay dudes rant about their kid for 45 minutes, but it was amazing. So if we get some sponsors and you want us to come to Hawaii to do a podcast, we're going to know to do that. I just,
My expectations are lower. I was hoping for like a bed and breakfast episode where I could just stay in bed and do the pod from there.
Oh, absolutely. That would be
there
fabulous.
We go.
That would be great too.
The other thing I was thinking about this as I listened to myself, which is very weird if you've never done it. We were talking about our first date, and I just wanted to circle back to that because, I don't know, I think I was in a really weird place in my life when we had our first date, but I didn't feel like I correctly expressed how much I love you and how much I appreciate you and everything that you do. And you pushed me to go into our first date, and I just want to tell you that thank you for that because it changed my life for the better. So,
well, thank you, honey. You changed Lizzy and I's life for the better each and every day. We are lucky to have you. But before we get into this week's show, there is one more thing. Last week, we talked about one of the shows we were watching. We talked about the morning show, and we talked about how maybe this was kind of it. Maybe we were kind of done with the morning show, and doggone it, Apple, you did it to us again. Jennifer Aniston, Reese Witherspoon, outstanding job in that last episode. I'm so excited that it's been renewed for a 5th season. I'm here for it, and I am in.
So, getting down to it, what is Lizzy's latest obsession? Because this is one of the questions we like to ask, and I'm asking you this week.
Lizzy's latest obsession, it's Christmas music, and we've got a little treat for you here, too.
Isn't that amazing? That's our kid. Well, she's in. This is like I would say top 5, but we don't have a 5th one right now, other than K-pop Demon Hunters, because apparently
no more. I need a break.
Lizzy thinks that's for all seasons. So the top 4 I have for her, I listed them this morning, is Dominic the Donkey, 1960. I Want a Hippopotamus for Christmas. No sound effect for that. Okay. Anyway, 1953.
No one wants to hear me sing. No one wants to hear me sing.
So she's in love with those. I love a classic girl, old soul. And then Tommy Prophets is the one that she was singing in the video. Is Tommy Prophets, who is a Michigander, by the way. Angels we have heard on high, which she sings at the top of her lungs.
Well, she really only sings that part. She doesn't know all the words. She sings that part. And sometimes lately she's just been running around the house singing Gloria in Excelsis Deo. And that's from Birth of a King, which is a concert Tommy Prophet does every year in Nashville to celebrate the holidays. It is on our list of places we should go see a concert. So obviously not in the cards this year, but man, we'd love to be there someday.
And our favorite song is Noel, He Is Born, which is an incredible song. If you've never heard it, check it out. It's just incredible by Stenage.
You also had a new one that I hadn't heard. I feel like I've heard a lot of Christmas music, but Lizzie calls it Fast Jingle Bells, and we listened to it in the dance class yesterday, and so that's by Amy Grant, and it's, well, if you haven't listened to it, go listen to it on your own. We'll put the link in the to the audio in the description of the show for all of these shows, actually, and all of these songs because 'cause they're worth celebrating, but yeah, the Fast Jingle Bells.
It was a staple in my house growing up. Good old Amy Grant. So, what are we doing today, Jason?
Well, we're going to talk, as we mentioned last, we're going to talk about traveling as LGBTQ parents, and when we get to travel as a family, all three of us. When one of us is traveling with Lizzie, which is much more complicated. Where we've been, where we're going, what are some of our favorite vacations that we've done. We're going to talk about our gay agenda item of the week. Stay tuned for that. That's all the teaser you're going to get, and of course, we're going to talk about Pride merchandise and all of it wrapped with a healthy dose of Lizzie.
This is Two Gay Dads. Let's get into it.
So before we get too far into this show, I just have to ask my husband, who I adore and love and would never pull delicious pranks on me if something that he did was intentional. So we mentioned before that I travel quite a bit for work, and I spent last weekend in Chicago for work at a conference. Great city, good food, good time with colleagues. But as I was packing to get ready, it was after I dropped Lizzie off at the bus stop. It was before our normal work day gets started. I was running around looking for a vest. And for those of you who know us, well, you know my husband. I complain about this all the time. He moves things in the house randomly, and he doesn't tell me that he moves things. So I was looking for a particular indoor non-warm weather vest that matched an outfit that I really like to wear when it's cooler outside. And I was wandering around the house looking for this vest, wondering where had my husband moved it. It wasn't in our closet with our other kind of casual vest. It wasn't in the I was looking and I was looking. Did you set me up?
Well, first of all, this was not in the show outline, but I didn't necessarily jump to help you when I knew that you were looking for it.
Because let me tell you what happened. He got up and he came into the bedroom to where I was packing, and I asked him if he had seen this vest, and he looked right at me, walked over to the closet, a different closet where I didn't even know we kept vests, reached in and pulled it out and handed it to me. Why? Why did you? I looked for that thing for 20 minutes.
I'm innocent until proven guilty. So
Prove
moving
your
on,
innocence.
moving on. I think we were going to talk about traveling as LGBT and adoptive parents. Are we ready to?
Or wow, what a transition. Just yes, we can transition, but I just want everyone to know if you travel, your spouse will move things on you. And I don't know whether they do it. It's been a 15-year joke in our household. And I think he does it on purpose. But yes, honey, let's go talk about travel.
Speaking of traveling, so one of the things that we were thinking about, because we're getting ready and planning our vacation for this coming year, we try to do one big vacation a year with Elizabeth since she's been old enough to start traveling with us. And then, especially when she was younger throughout the year, where a lot of travel to see family. I think our kid has more air miles under her belt than some adults do. And a lot of them in first class because we get upgraded due to Jason's travel. So we've set that bar really high for our 5-year-old. So just a couple things I was just remembering back to when Lizzie was first born, and we used to have to carry her adoption papers with us. I was actually finally going through some stuff as we get ready for our move, and I pulled out her old diaper bag, which still had stuff in it, and in there was folded up our adoption papers. And I was just reminiscing some of the travels we had, and how like that's, we still, when we leave her with family, we always leave a copy of the adoption decree and the papers that we give to our family when we're going to leave her with them if we have to travel. So it's just something I was thinking about recently. And then we made sure that Lizzie had her passport right away when she was old enough. When we had the finalization and had her birth certificate, we got her passport plus the card right away, which has been a lifesaver for some of the travel we've done.
By the way, her passport photo is just like it's adorable, and thank God they would not. The State Department would not have accepted this photo if it was an adult because she's kind of sticking her tongue out in it. But she was a year old, maybe, when she got this, and so she's got her hair a little done, and she's got her tongue just the tip of it sticking out.
It's the cutest. It's the
It's
cutest.
adorable.
We just went last year. We bought we were re-upping our pre-check, and so we got global entry as well, and we got her global entry because it is free now, or at least it was at the time free with the parents. And I just got to get it out, and that's now part of her profile, and it's just the cutest picture. So I enjoyed that.
No, hold on. But one thing, just so when you go through global entry or preach just global entry. There's an interview you have to go do the first time you get it with the Transportation Security Administration, right? TSA. They asked our 3.5-year-old if she was a terrorist. And I know it's just this scripted question. Like, are you a terrorist? Or do you have any known connections to terrorists? First of all, is anyone really going to say yes to that question? Because I'd have to question why they would even go into the office to try to get global entry if they were. But I just find it funny they get so robotic or they have this script that they have to ask everyone. So let's ask a 3.5-year-old if they're a terrorist or if they have any connections to known terrorists.
So we've driven and flown quite a bit. I think the last time, so when she was born, we drove down to New Orleans overnight. We'll get into that next episode when we talk about our adoption story. Turned around, drove back after she was born, a couple weeks later. Then we drove to Ohio and Michigan, went back, and then about 3 months later, we drove to Alabama, southern Alabama, back. And I think after all of that, I have figured out that I reach my maximum in a car at 15 hours. Like, not overall, just one way. 15 hours is where I am done.
I think that's about right. I mean, that's a long time in the car. Now, we are lucky because I travel for work and our employer lets us keep all of our airline status and miles. That is not something that every employer lets you do. So we have the ability to use those miles when we're traveling personally, which is a huge perk of a job that has me on the road over 100 nights a year. But I think you're right. And part of all that driving early on, though, was we were in a pandemic. And so we weren't necessarily comfortable with flying with our, infant and toddler child, in the heart of a global pandemic.
Although I remember the first time we flew with her, we were on a Delta flight and we were in the front row and she was sitting on your lap and she sat there the whole time and waved and said, like, not, didn't say anything because she didn't talk, but she just sat there and waved at everybody who got on the plane. I think we have video of that somewhere. It's the cutest thing.
A couple years ago, we were going to our big annual work conference, and it was in Orlando. And since it was over the summer, Lizzie was going to come with us. Now, Papa had to be there earlier than I did, and we had nothing but troubles on this flight. So we flew from Grand Rapids to Minneapolis, where we had a layover. By the way, all of this while we're in the middle of the beginning side of potty training, and she's getting it, but not getting it too well. So while we're on our layover, the 3.5-hour layover in the Minneapolis airport, which has a great little kids' play area, Lizzie has an accident. No big deal. It happens. So we change her. I change her out of her clothes and put a diaper on her because at this point, I only packed so many backup outfits in the diaper bag, and so we needed to make sure that we uh, had some extra clothes and didn't want to risk another accident. So she's in a diaper. She's upset about being in a diaper. We get on the airplane and we sit on the airplane and waiting to push back in Minneapolis for another hour. I cannot remember why, but we sat for another hour. We then had our 3-hour flight from Minneapolis to Orlando. When we get to Orlando and we're late, they tell us that our gate is occupied and it's going to be an undetermined amount of time before we can taxi in. So we're on a live taxiway, so seatbelt signs on. We're not allowed to move whatsoever. And Lizzie looks at me and she says, "Daddy, I have to poop." And there is nothing I can do other than look at her and say, "Lizzie, I can't take you to the bathroom right now. So, you have a diaper on, so it's okay." Which proceeds to a whole meltdown about how she's trying to potty train. And so she doesn't want to have an accident. But now here I am encouraging her to have an accident. We sat on the tarmac for almost an hour. And since we sat for an hour, yes, she pooped. We then, because we had a stroller, had to wait in the jet bridge in Orlando in the summer for another hour and 10 minutes for Delta Airlines to get us our stroller. Because once I leave the jet bridge, I can't go back. So I've got a child with a poopy diaper, nowhere to change her, standing in a jet bridge in the summer in Florida for an hour. No one died on this travel trip. But yes, daddy had a big glass of wine when we got to the hotel that night.
Well, and then we turned around after our conference and went to Disney, which was a whole other experience with a child.
Listen, I will always be grateful for the extra day that we stayed behind. We took our kid to Disney. She was really just getting into the princesses. So we did the breakfast at the Cinderella's castle. But the moment that I won't forget, at the time, Lizzie was so into Elsa from Frozen. Like that was just her obsession of the moment, right? And when we watched the parade at lunchtime, which was the last thing we did because then she fell asleep, and Elsa came around the corner and she just started getting all excited in just this pure Disney magic way of loving the parade and loving to seeing her favorite princess. I got choked up. I'm not gonna lie. I don't care what else we did. That is the moment from that Disney trip that I will take for the rest of my
And what a
life.
blessing to be able to do that. Speaking of Disney, last year we ventured out and decided to take our first cruise with her. We were discussing vacation options and wanting to do something that was oriented toward her, but also gave us a bit of a break as well. And a friend of ours said, "Have you looked at the Disney cruises? They're totally worth it." So we did. And so last year we took Lizzie on her first Disney cruise, and it was an incredible experience. It was fun. We went down a day early. She got to spend some time in Puerto Rico, and explaining to a kid it's not a foreign country, but that the culture is different than ours a little bit, and just kind of getting to have that fun with her, and then getting to take her on the big ship, and she was so excited. We could see it from our where we were at the castle that we were touring, and we got on board. It was a great vacation and a great way to do it.
Listen, Disney cruises are fantastic. We were on their original cruise ship, which is the Magic. So the boat's 30 years old now. Doesn't look 30 years old. They are constantly cleaning in a way where you always notice that you're cleaning, but they're never in your face about cleaning. It's really quite remarkable how they manage to make that work. But we had such a blast. You pay a little bit more for the Disney cruise, but the child's care on those cruise ships, for especially the Disney ones, is out of this world. I went to pick Lizzie up for dinner one night. We had the later dinner setting, and we're walking to dinner, and she's holding my hand, and she's like, "Daddy, I didn't wanna leave. I was just on the superhero simulator." And I'm like, what the heck is a superhero simulator? Like, I wanna go play on this superhero simulator. I wanna pretend to be Iron Man. I mean, it just if you just did a voyage and all you did was stay at sea, you'd never be bored.
I know other cruise lines have family. I know Royal Caribbean talks about being family oriented as well. We were really happy with the Disney experience. She got to meet all the princesses, having dinner at different restaurants every night, but then also that like the wait staff follows you, which was really nice. So then they get to know you, they get to know your kiddo. And so it was a really good experience. And like you said, the childcare was top rate, but also then that gave us the opportunity to get to sit by the adult pool or have a nice quiet dinner. So it was a really good opportunity. And when you do the math, if you take the total cost, you divide it out, it's not crazy. Listen, we're privileged to get to be able to do it and to have those resources. But when you divide it out and do it that way, it's not that crazy when you think of all that's included with it. So yeah, and I think there might be another, don't tell Lizzie it's a Christmas gift, that there might be another Disney cruise on the horizon.
That's right, May of 2026, right before Memorial Day weekend to celebrate the end of Lizzie's year of kindergarten. We will be doing another 4-day, Disney cruise, that leaves out of Port Canaveral. Different ship this time, so it's the Fantasy, but, same itinerary. We occasionally like to enjoy a cigar, and what I like about this one is there's a cigar lounge on that boat, which there wasn't on the Magic.
For the life insurance agent that just heard that, he's lying. He's lying. But in between there, we have another trip that we got to make, which is we got to go back to DC and do some house hunting coming up in a few weeks. If everything goes to plan. So we'll be flying out to DC and spending a couple days looking for, I think we're renting for the first couple years. So looking for a new place out there and returning to the DMV.
We wanna be inclusive with Lizzie on our house selection, but how tolerant is she gonna be of airplanes, cars, and empty houses with no toys in them? To be determined. We promise we'll talk about it on a future episode.
And then looking further down the road, we were just talking about this last night. Actually, we have set the first international trip for Lizzie at 7. We'd love to travel with her and show her little bits of the world. And so we're thinking ahead. We're thinking probably London. We've been to London a couple times. We love the UK. So getting to show her a place that we have fallen in love with would be a lot of fun.
So this week, in a new segment, we're gonna talk about what's on the big queer agenda for the week. Every time there's a natural disaster, we see all the memes from religious leaders, political leaders that blame the LGBTQ community for hurricanes, earthquakes, fires, whatever the natural disaster is. And I only wish we had that much power. Don't you, Nate?
That's like genie level stuff. I could definitely use that.
Quick question. I know this is not on the script. Will Smith Genie from Aladdin or Robin Williams? And there's only one right answer.
Robin Williams. Nothing against Will Smith.
Nothing against Will Smith. You can't beat.
Please don't sue us.
No.
I like.
So last month, the Supreme Court said no to a date with Kim Davis. Now, it was a bad case, but she was trying to overturn the Obergefell case from 2015, which legalized same sex marriage all across this country. And so while we should celebrate the fact that the Supreme Court did one thing sort of right this year, I don't want to give them too much credit based on the merits of the case. And Nate, you can talk about that in a moment because you used to be a paralegal and work in the legal field, and I have not. There are other cases pending, and there are other things we should be concerned about. So in Texas, right, also last month, there was a judge who declined and refused to perform marriages for same-sex couples, and they were facing discipline under the judicial ethics in the state of Texas because there you have to be a judge, one of the things is you have to be impartial. You have to show that you have no biases that might make you an impartial jurist if there was a case to come before you. And so saying, "I'm not gonna perform weddings for a single sect of the population, regardless of whether there are other people or not out there that would do that," is a prejudicial disqualifier to be a judge. So now, in order to protect bigoted justices, the Texas Supreme Court said that if you have a sincerely held religious belief, it does not violate the judicial conduct code in Texas for you to object. Let's just say that if you have a sincerely held religious belief and you are a judge, you no longer have to perform weddings. We can extrapolate out what that would mean towards other protections for other protected classes, but these are the constant threats when you hear your queer family members, your LGBTQ friends talking about why they are afraid. This is why.
Well, and I think that there's an important component of it, and I'd have to look at the exact language used and understand it a bit more than I do on face value. But does that mean that judges can also refuse to hear cases involving same-sex couples and adoption? And I think that's a really serious question. This is These things often out of Texas and Florida become models that get used other places, and it very much feels like they're skirting hearing, you know, the big case because they're gonna make this administrative change and slip it in and just pretend that we're gonna be able to move on. But, I think it does have ramifications all over the place, especially, like I said, if this is just one canary in a coal mine of cases like this. And like you said, Kim Davis, man, she's what,
Piece of work.
three times married?
4 times married to 3 men.
And I get to listen to her preach to me about sanctity of marriage. That's okay. I'm glad you found Jesus and all, but maybe, yeah, don't know. Me too. I don't know. Anyway, I did want to talk about some interesting statistics because I think when we're talking about these cases that are going to be coming down the pike in the next few years, according to the Williams Institute at UCLA, as of June of this year, there were 823 married same-sex couples in the United States.
123,000.
123,000, I'm sorry. So if we're looking at 823, it would be reasonable to argue that by the time some of these cases make it heard that would overthrow same-sex marriage, you could be looking at a million people, a million couples who are being thrown to the legal wind. And then it comes down to what state you live in and what the state laws are. Can you imagine for people who are privileged enough not to live, in a situation where their rights change from state to state? We live in Michigan. Michigan has a constitutional amendment. So if, while it may not affect us as a married couple, it could affect other people in our lives who are looking to make the same journey to get married like we did. So, interestingly enough, of the married couples, or I'm sorry, of the cohabitating same-sex couples, 59% of them are married, which I thought was interesting. It's well over a majority of same-sex couples are married, and 17% of those married same-sex couples are raising children. That's a huge, huge number. Also, I thought this was interesting. Married same-sex couples with children are approximately 8 times more likely than married different sex couples to have a foster or adopted child. And married same-sex couples are more likely than married different sex couples to have multi-generational households.
Wow.
So I thought that was really interesting.
Where did you say this?
It's from the Williams Institute at UCLA's School of Law. So it's an interesting, pretty source, but I thought that was really interesting. And then this final one is interesting. Householders and almost 3/4 of married same-sex couples own their home, compared to only about a half of unmarried same-sex couples. So I just thought it was interesting. This is not just something that we talk about in the lens of social justice. It's also economic justice, and also we are economic drivers as LGBT folk, and that's a larger conversation that we need to have.
Billions of dollars of disposable income every year.
And statistically more likely to be brand
Loyal.
loyal.
So, there's the stats are great. The horizon here, right? So in 2023, Tennessee passed a law that allows government officials to refuse to marry same-sex couples, right? And I think, and based on reading that I've done from Lambda Legal, which is a amazing nonprofit organization that specializes in legal cases pertaining to the LGBTQ community. I urge you to check out their website. Again, this will be linked below. We'll link the UCLA Williams Institute below for the episode notes as well. But they're doing this for a reason, and they're trying to create chaos in the system to force the Supreme Court to revisit the case, right? And so while Kim Davis's case was dismissed, right? Justices Thomas and Alito both said that they'd love to revisit the case, but not that case because it wasn't clean and she didn't have the proper standing to actually be in front of them. And so laws like you see in Tennessee are dangerous, right? Just this past legislative session, Idaho, Michigan, Montana, North Dakota, and South Dakota all considered bills or resolutions to the Supreme Court that would have been passed by the state legislature. Now, none of them passed, right? None of them passed, but they all considered bills. These weren't things 4 years ago that were happening and were coming up. And so here's what I would just ask you: if you care for an LGBT person and they're married and they start talking to you that they're scared, that they're nervous, meet their fear, meet the trust that they're showing to you by talking about it with compassion and empathy. Don't try to rationalize it away. Don't try to say, well, none of them passed, or I don't think they'll go that far. Because if you are a straight person, your rights aren't dependent upon somebody else. And I say that as a gay white male with a tremendous amount of privilege. But I would ask you all, if someone is expressing that to you, meet their fear with empathy, not trying to rationalize the actions away.
Yeah, and I think we'll get into this in a future episode, but there are definitely things queer folks can be doing, especially if you have families. I think for us, there's a real fear. Listen, well, there's a long history of persecution of LGBT folk, and that's not unique to any particular culture. That's everywhere. And so when fear is expressed, it's coming, at least if you're having a conversation with it's coming from a place of a view of the long lens of history. And the long lens of history is this doesn't always turn out well for us. And there's a real fear that they could even come for kids or taking our kids away or things like that. So, it is it's a frightening time, and we'll talk like I said, in a future episode about certain steps that you can take. I was looking at some of the articles that we were reading, getting ready for this, and you know, there's a real fear, especially with adopted families, where not adopted so much as biological. So one of the same-sex couple is the biological parent, and how do their rights shift if something were to happen to them to their married spouse who is not biologically linked to that child. And I think that, like I said, we'll talk future about what are the legal rights, what legal steps do folks need to be taking in the LGBT community to make sure that things are as airtight as possible. I know we've done it. We have a great family attorney who helped us a few years ago make sure that everything's done. We're working to meet with a LGBT specific attorney to have them look at those documents again, just to make sure that and especially through the lens of adoption, just to make sure we're airtight. I think everybody should be doing it. I know it costs money, but it's worth it in the long run, to make sure that you're secure, and secure if something were to happen to one of you, that your assets and your child's rights will flow to your spouse.
So the segment's been a little heavy, so let's end with some good news, right? We all could use some good news. We are in the holiday season. So we want to shout out the city of Memphis and their public library system because they have become a beacon of LGBTQ inclusion, not just during Pride Month, but throughout the entire year. Staff at Benjamin L. Hook Central Library have taken bold steps to ensure that queer voices are visible and celebrated in their collections and programming. Rather than limiting LGBTQ literature to seasonal displays, Memphis libraries feature colorful, creative book showcases year round. These displays cater to all age groups from children to adults and are a signal to visitors that the library is a welcoming and safe space for everyone. Staff members even wear rainbow lanyards to show support and approachability. The Children's Department recently conducted a massive diversity audit, reviewing every book in their collection for representation in cover art, authorship, and content. This led to targeted book orders to fill gaps to ensure LGBTQ stories are present and accessible. Plans are currently underway to expand these audits to other departments and other branches. Memphis Public Libraries also hosts an annual Pride Fest celebrating queer culture and literature with events that bring the community together. These efforts reflect a deep commitment to making libraries safe havens for LGBTQ bibliophiles, especially in a region where such visibility can be life changing. This is just an incredible piece of good news. And Memphis, thank you.
When we moved to the small town where we live, I remember the first place I saw a LGBT rainbow flag in was in our public library here. And I just remember thinking, wow, that's really special. I think libraries are such special places. That's incredible what they're doing in Memphis. Northern Michigan and Memphis are a million miles apart when it comes to a lot of things. And it's incredible to see that people more southern state are being so brave and bold. And I hope that the fact that this is coming up in conversations doesn't put them on a target to be harmed by people who would look to make our libraries less welcoming and less safe.
Absolutely. So, speaking of rainbow displays, we need to talk about Pride merchandise. And we should preface this by saying these are our opinions based on our experience, but we'd love to hear from you. So, a few things we need you to do. If you've made it this far into episode number 2, I think you're hooked. So, smash that subscribe button on YouTube if you're watching it on YouTube, or if you're listening to it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, go ahead and give us a follow, right? We do this for fun. We do this to try to build a sense of community. And the more listeners we have, the bigger that community is. So we'd love and welcome feedback from you all. What do you do with Pride merchandise? Do you have your kids wearing Pride shirts? And this doesn't matter whether you're an LGBTQ parent or a straight ally parent. We want to hear from you. So DM us on your socials, email us from our website. We're here to talk about you. But what do you think the right amount of Pride merchandise is, Nathan?
I think it varies depending on where you live and what your experience is. When we are moving to a large metropolitan area, I think that I might feel safer there. Here we don't have a rainbow families opportunities for families to connect. We were gonna, look to get involved with rainbow families out there, and being around other LGBT people with an LGBT community, I might feel differently. I know when we moved here, this is our first home that that wasn't an apartment that we owned together. We put our flag out every June and saying, we're going to be out and proud. This is our home. This is our space. We had rainbow stickers on both of our cars. And then come November last year, towards the end of the month, I felt super unsafe. And so we took those off our cars. I just got to tell you though, I just ordered it again. I'm feeling better. I don't know if it was the recent elections or what. I just feel like if there is time for us to be out and brave, this is it. And to express that we are allies to the people. You don't know the server, the going to the grocery store, and you encounter queer folk, and to be able to have them see you as an ally. We're like, we look good. We always make sure we look good, but we're like jean wearing, hoodie wearing guys. Like maybe we don't necessarily scream LGBT to them, but when you have something on that recognizes you as an LGBT person, then they feel safer around you. And so I think like anything you can do to do it. And I think there are different flavors. I've never been in a since we all go through that phase when we first come out where everything's rainbow. After that phase, I've been less apt to do that, but I think if you're not into that, finding subtle ways to let people know that
It's
you're.
the lapel pins, the bracelets, and listen, from a young age, Lizzie has always worn, "Love is love" T-shirts or other pride shirts, and not just during the month of June, because part of it is if you have a problem with my child wearing a positive message, then I have a problem with you. And whether that's your business or whether that's you personally, then you're not someone that I need to have in my life. The world is only getting busier, right? We are only getting busier. And so we decided in that busyness to start a podcast too, right? But as we are like who we choose to spend our time with, the limited amount of free time we get matters. And so part of me is like, I want to know that. Now, you know, again, we come from a position of privilege and to be able to do that, right? But I can't wait to put that new pride sticker back on my truck, and I know you can't wait to put it on your Jeep. It is about sending, you know, that message that says, "Are a safe space." I know I feel better when I walk into we have a healthcare system here in Ludington, and when I walk in and I see the rainbow stickers on their ID badges or the rainbow lanyard, I feel better in this small town, and so it is those subtle ways of how you symbolize that you are a welcoming, safe space, that you don't even know the positive impact you're having and the stress level that you bring down. You go into a hospital in a rural community and you're an LGBTQ person, you can be scared. You can be scared if your husband's gonna come into that room or your partner or your spouse or how they're gonna care for your child, and that subtle message of a rainbow sticker or the "I am a safe space," it matters. It matters in our schools, it matters in our libraries, as you just mentioned. It matters to kids. It keeps people safe.
Especially in situations like that, it says, "I have your best interest at heart." You might find people that are, they're not going to outwardly hate you, but you might get the vibe that you don't feel like they have your best interest at heart. And I think that's really important. Quick story: when we got together, we were what 2 months in, and you had a major car accident as a on duty police officer. And I lived 45 minutes away. He called me. I got in a car. There's much more to that story we'll tell someday. And I drove down, and this is right after some pretty horrendous stuff. There was a case against Jackson Memorial, which is right down where we were in Miami, around a LGBT couple being pretty overtly discriminated against. And so when I walked in, I told them that I was his brother. And what
Which was very confusing to me because I have 2 brothers. Neither of them lived in Florida, so how were they gonna be at the hospital?
So they took me back, and then I just remember sitting there and feeling very alone. And they had taken him out for an MRI and brought him back in, and the tech that brought him back was a gay guy, and he just like wrapped me in his arms, and he said, he's going to be okay, it's going to be okay." And just to have like an LGBT person there with me and not feeling so alone in that moment was really impactful. So I think, if you're an ally, find a way to be an ally. If you are, and to express it. And if you're an LGBT person, be brave. Again, I said this last week. Don't do it at the cost of your safety. But if you can, be brave, because it really does mean something to people.
What's the ugliest piece of Pride merchandise you've ever owned?
I had a thumb ring when I first came out. That was pretty. It was like acrylic, and it was. Ugh.
I think I may have bought mine this summer. So
What closet are you hiding that in?
you no, you've seen it. It's the polo or the not the polo, the tank top. So I was in Las Vegas, for work, and a colleague and I went to see their minor league baseball team. We always love to see baseball games together when we're in the same spot. So we go to see this baseball game for minor league, and the Las Vegas LGBTQ community center were selling tank tops, pride tank tops as a fundraiser. So I bought one and I wore it, and it's pretty ugly. Not every piece of pride merchandise needs to be bought or should be
But
worn.
it's super comfortable. So there's that. I thought maybe you were going to say that brush bristle Christmas tree you have on your desk. That's pretty ugly.
I love that tree, and that was a gift.
Yeah. So anyway,
Well, we did it. We finished our second episode.
I don't even think that we got grumpy with each other off camera this time.
I don't
I
think
think
so.
we're getting better at this.
We are getting better, and we promise to keep getting better, and we'd love for you to continue to be a part of our community that we're trying to build here. So please give us a like and a follow. We'd continue to appreciate all of the support we're getting from friends and family and people we haven't met yet, new friends, right? As Lizzie would say, a stranger is just a friend she hasn't made yet. And so, our closing segment, what did Lizzie teach us this week? And I think we did this last week, and we're going to do it this week. One of the things my daughter taught me this week was just how continually she surprises me with how generous her spirit is. You took her to a little kids workshop where they got to paint on little wooden crafts while I was out of town for work, and she painted this beautiful dog, and I saw an amazing picture of it. And when she was all done with it, she didn't want to take it home. She didn't want to give it to a family member, someone she knew. She looked at a woman who was on the other side of the store and went over and gave it to her and said, I just want you to have this just because. The generous spirit of our children is amazing. And to know that Lizzie can express that in the same way just reminds me how we, especially at this time of the year, need to lead with an example by being generous in spirit. Nate, what about for you?
Maybe I didn't learn anything specific, and who knows, maybe I did. I could tell you about, that's a great story about her. I could tell you about the story recently when she offered her favorite blankie, who's named Gucky. That's a whole episode's worth of information later to get to why she calls him Gucky. But she offered Gucky to my boss over a Zoom call just in case she needed to borrow it. And the truth is, as a parent, I don't need moments like these to be head over heels in love with our daughter. I already am. We started a little tradition this year. When daddy is away on the weekends, we light a fire and pull out her sleeping bag, and she curls up on the floor by the fireplace and falls asleep. And I let her stay up as late as she wants, hoping, probably foolishly, that it'll buy me a little sleeping in myself, and eventually she'll drift off. The other night, I was finishing my book, Blake Wolf's Sigma Holiday. It's a romance book. It's the final story in a series about gay werewolves in Marquette, Michigan. It's worth checking out. But I stopped reading and I just watched her sleep. The firelight was flickering across her face, and in that quiet moment, I was reminded of just how much this little person means to me. In our next episode, we'll talk about our journey to become parents, a journey I never imagined for myself. I never thought I'd be a parent. But sitting there Saturday, I was thinking about National Adoption Day, which had just passed, and about how completely she has changed everything for me. Because I said yes to a date with a guy who wasn't my type at absolutely the wrong time. Because I said yes to becoming a dad, and on July 28th, 2020, standing in our kitchen in Virginia with my phone still in my hand, we took the leap and accepted the opportunity to be our parents. My life has been changed forever, and I would never go back. She's my life's mission now, and as one of these two gay dads, I'm grateful for her, grateful for Jason's persistence in pursuing his dream of being a parent. So I'll end there. This is my TED Talk. I'm a papa and I love my child. Sign me up for life because I'm sold. This is the best.
I don't know what else to say about that, but we do have our question of the week that we want to put out there too. And that is, now that Thanksgiving's over, what's the right time to eat on Thanksgiving? We just ate during the middle of the Lions football game. And for those of you who know me, I'm a diehard Lions fan. And my one rule is don't make me eat during the Lions game, especially if you're asking me to cook the bird.
We did talk to some friends. We got answers from 2 p.m. to 9 a.m. or to 9 p.m.
After hunting.
with all kinds of rationale involved. Let us know. I'm curious.
And on our show next week, we're going to share our adoption story, how it worked for us, what our agency was, what our process was. Our story is not one that had heartbreak in it, but it still wasn't easy.
And then we're already planning out episode 4. We're going to get into a different type of family. We're going to talk about single parenting by choice, and we're going to have our first guest, our friend Kelly, who's going to share her experiences with us.
Thank you, everyone. You have a great week.